King Arthur, as he sat in the midst of the knights of the Round Table, looked out over the gathered men who were there, and he asked a question. And as Merlin, his advisor, was standing beside him, he looked up to Merlin and he said, "Tell me, what is the greatest virtue of a king?" And the murmurs around the Round Table as the knights discussed the question amongst themselves. Some would say that it's strength of arms to be able to subdue your enemies. Others would say it's dominion over your people so that you can control your population. And others would say it's your charisma and your ability to gather people to your cause. And as they pondered the question, Arthur asked again, "Merlin, what do you say? What is the greatest virtue of a king?" And Merlin looked down at his king as he sat there at the table. He says, "My king, the greatest virtue that you could possibly possess is truth. Because when you lie, you kill some part of the world. There is a battle for truth in front of you that you might not even know that's in front of you right now. As you graduate, you are moving away from a very controlled environment of information and into a world filled with a multitude of voices that will vie for your attention. You may not yet be aware of it, but there is a war raging, a battle for truth that started generations ago in a garden. And since the garden, mankind has been in a constant battle to know the truth, and you, graduates of high school, are stepping into the fray. There are going to be a multiple amount of narratives that you hear and that exists in our world today, and not all of them are compatible with the truth. But remember, a lie kills some part of the world. Jesus said this. He said, "If you hold to my teachings, you are really my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." In Isaiah 59, we find this statement to be that justice is turned back and righteousness stands far away. For truth has stumbled in the public square, and uprightness cannot enter. Truth is lacking, and he who departs from evil makes himself a prey. In our world, my friends, there are narratives, there are lies, there's guidance. And in the midst of all of that, somewhere is the truth. And you need to make sure that you stand on the right side of that battle line. You cannot know that you're living for the truth, however, unless you know what the truth is. And you cannot know the truth unless there's a truth that can't be known. I'll let you unpack that one for a while. Some have coined the phrase, "Well, this is my truth." But that's a misnomer. You don't have the authority to declare what is true. However, you must decide where you seek the truth. Because if you get it wrong, it's disastrous. I'm going to tell you a story. It's a true story of a time when I was in the Air Force. I used to work on an airplane called a B-52. If you don't know what a B-52 is, that's because you're too young. But don't worry, someday you won't be. But a B-52 is a very large bombing aircraft, and they would fly missions that were terrain-following missions, which meant that they flew low-level missions no more than maybe 100 yards off the deck, that is, off the ground. And they would have to follow the terrain The only problem with that is that the navigator and the pilot did not have enough reflex dexterity to be able to handle such a mission. And so they left it to the instruments. They would fly by instrument, and they would close the windows so they could not see outside. Because when you're 100 yards off the ground, flying at 400 miles an hour, it's a terrifying view. So they closed the windows, they shut the shades on the windows so they could not see outside, and they put themselves on instrument navigation, starting to run their low-level mission. And about an hour into their flight, they crashed into a mountain. The pilot and the crew were lost. See, they based their safety on something that they thought was true. They believed that their equipment was calibrated accurately. And I understand the importance of that because not on that particular mission, but it was my responsibility to make sure that the calibrations were set precisely. Because 1 degree off, and the plane does not have enough time to make an accurate adjustment to avoid crashing into a mountain 100 yards off the ground. See, if you get the truth just a little wrong, do you know what you have now? You have disaster. You cannot go into the world ahead of you without knowing the truth. They based their safety upon what was not true. In Isaiah 49, God declares this: I, the Lord, speak the truth. I declare what is right. In Romans chapter 3, let God be true, though every one were a liar. Joshua said this at the end of his experience in taking the promised land: if it is evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve. Whether the gods of your fathers served in the regions beyond the river, the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So you're stepping away from a relatively safe place, graduates, and entering into a world filled with an ocean of ideas and ideologies. In high school, you might have had the opportunity occasionally to place your feet in the waters and experience a small sample of what you will encounter. However, going forward, I encourage you to do as the scriptures say: buy the truth and do not sell it. By wisdom, instruction, and understanding. You're going to have to decide going forward in your life, because up to this point, most people decided for you. Most people decided what information you should and could have. No matter how much freedom you thought you had as a young adolescent and a teenager, and maybe even as a junior in high school, and even as a senior, as you're getting yourselves prepared to graduate, you thought that maybe you controlled your world of information, but that's not true. That information was filtered through the ones who safeguarded you. But soon those safeguards are gone. And you have to decide where you're going to get your information. What sources are you going to be drawn toward? What narratives are you going to listen to? What values will you embrace? That's true. Because if you get it wrong, you're going to discover that life can become quite disastrous. Just because it's popular does not make it true. Just because multitudes agree with it does not make it true. You have an obligation to the Lord and to your own life to anchor yourself to the truth. And so I repeat from the scriptures again, Psalm 119, we hear this: the sum of your word is truth. and every one of your righteous rules endure forever. You'll be heading off to college. You'll be heading off to careers. You'll be heading off into life. You'll be navigating towards family, discovering new friends and new adventures and new ideas and new thoughts and new traditions and new value structures that the world will throw at you. You'll be listening to different talking heads on TV. You'll be hearing different voices from various places. And it will not be filtered any longer for you. It will not be safeguarded by those who watch terror over your life up to this point. Will you navigate yourself by the truth? Will you hear, as Merlin said to King Arthur, the greatest virtue is truth. For when you lie, you kill some part of the world. So my friends, young adults, hold fast to the truth, because the truth will set you free.